Who are you?
The Velthara Sovereignty's royal palace received approximately 300 visitors on any given day. The checkpoint process was designed for 300 visitors, thorough, efficient, professional in the way that institutions become professional after doing the same thing reliably for a long time. Guards inspected bags, verified credentials, confirmed appointment registrations, and directed people toward their designated areas. The process had a rhythm. The guards knew their part of it. Guard Terran had been working the Crystal Entrance checkpoint for 4 years. He had processed freight inspectors, diplomatic couriers, maintenance personnel, visiting scholars, petitioners, and once, memorably, a Velcari ambassador who had brought 17 pieces of luggage and a pet that was technically prohibited under the palace's biological introduction guidelines. He had processed all of them with the same methodical competence. He appended the backpack because the man carrying it had checked in as a freelance transit courier, scheduled to deliver a package to the palace records office, no diplomatic credential, no military clearance, visitor classification, civilian. Civilian backpacks were inspected. The procedure was clear and Terran followed it. The contents of Corvin Dre's backpack were 1 travel hygiene kit, 1 collapsible water canister, 1 translated appointment confirmation document, 1 folded packet of transit documents, 1 small personal photograph in a cracked protective case, and 1 folded military uniform. Terran's hands stopped at the uniform, not because he recognized what it was immediately, because the way it was folded told him, before he consciously processed anything else, that what he was looking at was not a piece of clothing. The fold was the ceremonial fold, the specific tight geometric precision that military tradition used for formal presentation, the kind that took practice to produce and that civilian couriers did not carry in their backpacks. He turned it over. The insignia on the collar was not Velthara. The insignia on the shoulder epaulet was not from any of the 17 species that the Velthara military had working relationships with. The ribbon tucked into the fold, partially visible at the top layer's edge, catching the crystal light, was a color he didn't recognize in a pattern he had never encountered. Princess Thyrell was passing through the checkpoint corridor because she passed through it most mornings on her way to the administrative wing, and it was the kind of thing that becomes invisible when you do it enough times. She was not paying particular attention to the checkpoint table. She paid attention to this one. She had spent 3 years studying coalition military tradition as part of her diplomatic preparation. The insignia on the collar of the folded uniform had been in those studies. She had encountered it in a context that she had not thought about in months, in a module about Earth's military history and its place in the coalition's development. The ribbon. She recognized the ribbon. Earth's Sovereign Cross, the highest military decoration the human government issued, awarded approximately 14 times in the past century, given for actions that preserved coalition life at personal cost so extreme that the standard military commendation framework had been considered inadequate. 14 times in a century. Corvin Dre had stopped moving his hands toward the scattered contents of his bag and was watching Terran with the particular patience of someone who has been through checkpoint inspections before and is simply waiting. "Who are you?" Thyrell said. He looked at the princess, at the formal gown, the crystal hairpins, the palace insignia on her collar, and then at the uniform on the table, and his expression remained exactly what it had been before she asked, the unhurried patience of someone who has nowhere urgent to be. "Transit courier," he said. "I have a package for the records office. Appointments at 1400. "The uniform." "Mine," he said. "I travel with it." Thyrell looked at the ribbon, at the epaulet, at the fold that was not a civilian fold. "This is an active service dress uniform," she said. "The insignia is Earth First Fleet. This ribbon is the Sovereign Cross." She looked at him. Transit couriers don't carry Sovereign Cross uniforms in their backpacks. "I'm retired," Corvin said. "I carry it out of habit." The word retired in the context of this uniform, with this ribbon, was doing a great deal of work. Thyrell was old enough and educated enough to understand what it meant, that the man standing at Terran's checkpoint in a worn field jacket and old jeans, carrying a civilian visitor pass and a delivery appointment for the records office, had at some point in his history done something the human government had considered worthy of the Sovereign Cross. 14 times. A century. Him. Terran looked at the uniform. At the princess. At the man. He was processing the gap between civilian courier at the checkpoint and whatever the ribbon means, and the gap was large enough that his 4 years of professional competence were not immediately producing a clear protocol. The guard at the far left entrance position had taken a knee. Not because anyone told him to. Because he had a better angle on the ribbon's color and pattern than Terran, and he had also studied coalition military history, and he had apparently arrived at the same conclusion Tyrell had, and his body had responded before his professional training could produce a more measured alternative. Corvin looked at the kneeling guard with a slight expression shift. Not embarrassment, something closer to the tired affection of someone who has encountered this response before and has not entirely made peace with it. "Please don't," he said. "I'm here to deliver a package." The guard remained kneeling for approximately 4 more seconds and then stood with the expression of someone who has just done something involuntary and is recalibrating. Tyrell picked up the uniform. She held it with the care of someone handling something that belongs in a better context than a checkpoint inspection table, and she looked at the ribbon close up, and then at Corvin, who had picked up his water canister and was replacing it in his backpack with the unhurried efficiency of someone packing up after a routine delay. "The records office appointment," she said. "Package delivery," he said. "Transit work. Pays adequately. What is in the package?" "Historical documents," he said. "Archive transfer from a private collector. Standard transit job. My 15th this year." Tyrell held the uniform and looked at the man who carried a Sovereign Cross in a worn backpack and had a 1400 appointment to deliver archival paperwork to the records office. She made a decision that was not in any protocol she had been trained for. "The records office director," she said, "will meet you personally. I'll arrange it." She looked at Terran. "Clear the inspection." She looked back at Corvin. "And when the package is delivered, there is a reception this evening for Coalition diplomatic staff. The kind of reception where this uniform would be appropriate." Corvin looked at his backpack, then at the uniform she was still holding. "I'm a courier," he said. "You're whatever this ribbon says you are," she replied, "and the ribbon says considerably more than courier." She held the uniform out toward him. "The reception begins